Okay, and then slow down in iMovie. So it's really interesting. We're going to do some of that tonight here. But first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about things you should know when you use a skew, basically the different kinds of them, and the things. Probably number one is that your skew is sharp. And here somewhere. No matter what kind of skew you have, I put this one on here, look at the monitor, if you click me down right there. And this is a curved skew here. And it's sharpened. You can sharpen. I have a 180 grit CBN wheel that I grind this on. And then I will take a fine diamond stone and I will hone that. I have that on the end of this video here. But no matter what kind of shape you have, you need to hone them out because there's a world of difference on it. The number two is, I am a big fan of speed. This lathe right here is running about 3,200 RPM tonight. And because it's a small diameter spindle, it's inclined, I really don't have much fear of going that fast with it. And my bowls, I turn pretty fast too. But I'm going to show you the difference in maybe the cutting of going slow and the cutting of going fast. We're going to talk about the difference between a curved skew, a straight skew, and a little more curve to it without the straight on the top of it there. So primarily, the ones that are used in the video are going to be these two or something like them. And we're going to talk about the difference in them. Number two, or number three really, is that you want to be comfortable. Now I have this lathe on the wheels. They wanted to take it off the platform. I said, no bother. They like it up a little bit closer to me. And you want to be comfortable, but you also want to have the tool rest where it works for you. Some people are shorter. They might have the handle a little lower, a little higher. The other thing is you have it close enough. And the other thing is that you either have hardened steel or you dress out your cast iron. I am a big believer in a cast iron. I have a Powermatic tool rest on my robust lathe. I love my robust lathe, but I love my Powermatic cast iron 15-inch tool rest even more. So to me, that's an important part, is that you can slide if you have to with the tool and make it move back and forth. There are all kinds of other gizmos and things, of course. Here we have a bedan. You can turn beads with a bedan. You can use it for many things. But it's not going to be the primary thing on our video. This is an oval skew, sharpened to a straight bevel on it. The bevel itself, again, it's a personal thing whether you're doing softwood. If you're doing softwood, your grinding bevels here could be thinner, and you can bring them back a little bit farther, and you can shave the wood pretty well with it. It's very similar to the bowl gouging. If you're using a very hard exotic wood, you're going to grind that a little bit different, that it doesn't quite come back as far. Softer wood might be back there. So 40 degrees is a good starter. You might lower that to 35 degrees on a softer wood. You might raise it to 45 degrees for the other. The angle itself, if we look at two other ones here, and you can see these, try to get them reflected. This one is much more acute to it. This one is closer to 90 degrees on this one. There's no difference. The wood does not care if you're using this skew or this skew. It's how you present the tool to the wood. Is it going to be cocked like that? It's just changed it to make it look like that one. There's no difference except this handle is farther over to the right, and this handle is more closer to my body. So the wood doesn't care. You have to find that particular cutting for the kind of wood you have. All right. The other thing is, when you do a bowl turning, you do bowl turning with a gouge, you're taught ABC: anchor, bevel, cut. Okay. When you're using a skew, the anchor is on the tool rest, but the bevel really doesn't need to rub on the wood. Very, very light. As they say, it's floating across the wood or floating just on the bottom, on the top layer of the wood to make the cut. And if you push too hard on it, you're going to have more trouble sliding it, and it's going to start cutting into the wood too deeply and cause some other problem. So we're going to get into that in a little bit, but we're going to look at okay. So here the angle here is a little bit straight. This is a flag to tell me a little bit on that part. Notice it's going backwards. You can run it forwards, you can run it backwards. If you're doing flat work, how many people have taken a router for a finish cut and gone backwards? Make that cut backwards, the last cut, and then make it light, and it'll be a very nice cut. Same thing here. If you have a wood that's a little gnarly, you can try going backwards. I do it with my bowl gouge in shear cutting. I'll cut one way with it, and then I'll back it out the other way and bring it around the bowl the other way and shear cut on a back cut. And it produces a very, very nice finish on the wood. I also use a spindle gouge with a curved way back instead of a normal bowl gouge. And I'm going to do another video someday on shear cutting and this type of thing, and we'll look at that. Okay? So here's our straight cut with the flakes, and this one, that's not too bad for the curved cut. Sometimes they'll come off a little bit slower. Again, this lathe is running about 3,400 on robust. Then we flip it over. And again, we're going to talk about the axis of these things. X, Y, Z axis on these. One is how it moves down the tool rest. Two is how you tilt the tool to get there. And three is how much you raise the handle to get things done. And what I'm going to do is show you these two skews in action and which one prefer the way you want to cut the wood. And sometimes this one works better, sometimes this one works better, but in my opinion, overall, the curved tool rest, the curved skew chisel has really made things a little bit easier on that. This one's about done. Here you can see some of the cut coming off of that one now. Okay, the short point, I'm cutting a bead. And here we can see this one, we're using the point and cutting underneath the wood, and it's really cutting it very cleanly. With just that little bit on the tip. This one we're using a little more of the blade to cut it, yet it's still doing a nice job cutting it. The difference here is the XYZ. On this one, I have to control the amount of movement up and down the tool rest. I have to control the handle, right or left, and I also have to control the amount of rotation to it. So there's three variables going on there. This one's a little bit easier. The tool, the handle of the tool can be almost straight, and I'm able to turn this corner from top to bottom with almost just rotating the tool with the blade into the wood, rather than the other one. And you're going to see similar here. This is the same type of movement, and the cutting, again, on the blade and the rotation compared to what I have to do here. We're going to take a look at that as we cut them too. Here you can see the point being used. Hard to use the point if you have a lot of curve in your blade with a short point. So it still gets around it that way, okay? This one's going the other way. And we're cutting, again, you see the handle of this one is going to be over quite a bit. There's going to be a lot more movement to the tool, trying to come around that corner to keep the point on it. and also the raising of the handle to get that done. This one is pretty straight. It's a rotation and possibly a little lifting of it to get it to penetrate closer to the center line, but not near the complexity that would be on a straight cut. And again, this is sharp tools. This is something you cannot work a skew well unless you hone it down and make your, get this kind of ribbons coming off. This is 2x4 pine. Go to Menards, big store, whatever it's going to be, and buy a 2x4 with fairly straight grain in it, and just cut it up into 2x2s and just go through it. That's all. If you just practice going through it, practice going through it. Don't pull out a nice piece of walnut and start on that and try to say, I'm going to do this. Here's the long point cutting on the bead. And you notice this is really gets pretty easy with the straight. This is a 90-degree here. And it's just kind of rolling, and it's cutting right on here. This one, I'm cutting with the blade, most of it until I get down inside there a little bit. But I'm having to rotate this. The handle just has to come up more to keep this part of the blade cutting. Here I have a lot more freedom in the rotation of that cut. And if you think of a badan, when you cut with a badan, you cut beads with that. That's a little more like that right there. You're rotating and rolling it on that. Here's a taper with the curved blade, taper with the straight blade. And not only now, you not only have to work the 3 axes of it, you also have to push in toward the center to get down to that smaller diameter. So now you're basically doing 4 different parameters into this thing to get that done. And then the cutting the taper with the long. Here you can see where this one, wide, it's a pretty wide cut. Again, this one, just you find the planing and tapering and things like that with that blade. Here you can see I'm getting underneath it. It's still cutting pretty cleanly, but look at the debris coming off of it. And I'm really having to control this tool in this situation. The other one was much easier to work with. All right, here we go the other way. I'm going to see if I can stop right here for a second. This is a long cove. And a long cove with a straight blade, which I switched sides on here. With the straight blade, you're having to keep this under control. And I think in this one, you actually see me getting all the way up here on the blade. It's still working, but it'd be nice to keep it down here. This one with the curved blade almost lends itself much easier to making that cove. It's easier to go downhill with a curve than it is to go down that hill with a straight edge on it. Make sense? Any questions on anything? We're almost through this part, so we'll let it go a little bit more. And again, here with the curved blade, you can see I'm starting to lift it a little bit. This one's cutting it. Look at where I'm going. Because it's a cove, it's not near as risky in making a catch. If I got up there much higher, it would. But I'm still able to get away with that. And you can see the debris here that I made on the previous cut. And they're both coming and then downhill and inside curve. Now I just flip this over and trim it off. Okay, ooh, catch. I had to work hard to get this part. I really had to. I'm going to talk a little bit here. These lines right here, this V shape, that's the face grain. And when you see knots, a little later here, you see knots in it. All knots are on the face grain of wood. When you cut a board, the knots are in the face grain. So that's the face grain, and here's the side grain. Now, the question to you is, where does the catch occur in the rotation of that piece of wood? Face grain, side grain, or everywhere?
It happened so fast.
Everywhere, anywhere. Okay, if you can watch this slow enough, you're going to notice it's going to start to curl up a little bit when it changes from the face grain to the side grain. And the face grain is a little easier to cut. For instance, you take a knife and cut on a board, it's easier. When you get into the cut across the side grain here, that's when it is. And what happens in a bowl? Where's your tear out in a bowl? You ever see it in the side grain? Not very often. You see it in the side grain. So I think we can make a correlation here that when the blade is working nicely and cutting in the base grain, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to like it when you stick it into the side grain here with too much blade exposed to it. So here we got side grain. There it goes. That gives you some idea of where that catch occurred here. Now, is that going to help you? I don't know. It's a nice understanding, but what happens is that the blade gets underneath the wood too much, and then it's exposed too much to it, and it takes off. There's another one here. I tell you, I really had it work. There you see a knot. So now you know where the face grain is as it's going around. And there you can see it's starting to catch. And that's right in line with it starts going into the side grain here. And it kicks it over. Again, it would be wonderful to show the hand movements with this, but it's just difficult to do them both without having four going at the same time. On that. Okay, here's the other way of getting a catch. You over-rotate. Again, if you're using a straight grind, it over-rotates. You've gone a little bit too far. You caught on the far side, and you flipped it over the other way. You have to keep that when it's a short point cutting in here. You really have to be careful that you don't expose any of the blade going the other way. And it's going to jump on you. And you can see that if you rotated that back, you find the same problem with it on that one. Okay, here we're going to hone it a little bit. This will be the end right here. This is just a diamond hone. You can get any size you want. You can credit card size or whatever. But get it on, and then stroke it back and forth, and I'm working my way down the curve here. And you do this on both sides. Primarily, it's important to get this one. It's nice if it has one back here, but it's not going to, it's going to cut no matter what you do. It's just, the important part is that there's a little flat, sharp area right down there. Oh, sorry.
The curved blade, you had square on the bottom for tool rest, and the straight one you had rounded.
These are two curved ones. This is the one I used in the video. Oh, down here?
The straight one that you had
Right.
in the video.
Right.
You have rounded.
Yeah. Yeah. These two were, all three of these were scrapers to start with.
Yeah.
Dick Sting sold me these for $35 for both of them. So I said, okay, you forced me into it. And I turned them into skews. This one is rounded off. And
When you round it, when you leave it square.
it's a personal preference. I really don't notice a whole lot of difference. But the thing that is important, if you're going to leave them square, take your diamond hone and take this edge off, take this off. It will slide every bit as well as this one. They'll both slide if you don't have a burr or a sharp corner on here. It won't make any difference. And
Don't you find it easier to roll a bead if it's rounded?
I'm sorry?
Don't you find it easier to roll a bead if it's rounded?
If it's rounded on
The
there.
edge of the tool is rounded.
On the bottom.
If I were using this one, I would say, yeah, because I'm doing so many things with it to get it to turn. On this one, I don't think. Turn a bead with one of these. What do you have to do? Put it on the top of the wood, the tool res is here, and you go like that. Turn it over and you go like that. Allen batting all they use. You go watch the craft supply, this is the skew. He does magic with it. He did, I'm sorry to say, he just passed away too. But then, the old timers, Dennis White, he braised on a piece of high-speed steel on the end of a stick, and that's all he used. And he would turn everything with skew, because I had two of these parts. Both his skews are very high quality. But again, this one's powder steel, scraper. These two are Packard, and they work. They work very well. So now with this one, look at where my hand has to be with that. This one here, look at where my hand is with this one. And they're both going to cut. All right, this one's over here. And this one, if I get my belly out of the way, is over here. Now that's not a great cut, but you can see the difference in the angle. Look where the handle is here, where it is here. So all the time I'm going this way with this one, I have that handle cocked and I have to work with it that way. Now when I roll this over, look at what happens to me. Where am I? Been here before? Now I'm going to cut and go back this way. So why not go this way? Go back and forth with it. Now, I want to point one other thing out with this before I go far. This is also a shear cutter. If you have wood that's a little gnarly, you're having trouble with the grain pattern in it, if I only put the edge on the wood, there's no bevel, no nothing, just the edge here cutting. And I'm actually shear cutting down the wood with that. And we're going to take a zoom in on that one. Yes, yeah, I'm sorry. Zoom in. Stab yourself. I'll just come back. And it's clean. It's clean. This wood is just looking a lot like it did before. I'll tell you what, I got a lot of pine. So the shear cutting is kind of a way out. If you have a little trouble keeping the skew cutting, you can put it in that way. Now, this one is the curved skew, and we're going to have to turn it down a little bit. And we're doing the same thing. Go backwards. Look at what's coming off here. I have a little trouble controlling it. But look at this, what shavings are with that. As we get it straightened out. But if I take this and I want a shear cut with it, notice how little the blade is actually on the width of the cut. You can see the dust here on that one compared to I'm all over this one. See the difference in the straight blade? If you're trying to shear cut something with that. Okay, that's the short point. Now if we flip this over and cut with the log point, you can hear I'm trying to find that right angle. And you're going to notice that the blade is actually lower on the wood. When I was cutting up here, you see where the blade is here? Now I flip this over, look where the blade is dropped, and the low side is down a little bit above center. But it's a different feel, it's a different cut. And you try not to heel You can hear the heel bouncing on the back of this. So what I did was pull it in to my body a little bit, and I'm close to shear cutting, but I have, if you can see the polished edge on the front of that blade, that's all it's touching the wood. I'm not trying to rub any bevel. You can hear that bevel. I got too much rubbing. But if I can just, there you got the point caught in it. And this again makes a very smooth cut. But if I look at this one, again, look at where I can go with this one. I was way over here. Now I'm I'm more in front of it. And I can make that cut there. I can make that cut there. I can actually come almost to the back and cut that wood. Not quite as well, but I have a lot more option in cutting surface with this piece here, with this one. If you're pairing, that's why this one is straight and this one is curved. I try to pair the wood with this. It's not quite perpendicular there. But I go with this one on the end. Very easy. Cuts it very easy. But if I went to the straight edge one, look at the handle. Again, handle's way over here to do it. Now I could try to do it this way, but look at what, I got too much belly muscle in the way. I have a problem there. So you're going to cut that with the long side. It makes a nice cut, nice and straight. You don't have any trouble with it, but you're moving it around. Okay. Any questions on that? Again, pine works pretty well for practicing. A softwood rather than some hardwood, you're a little bit better off in practicing. You could use wetwood too. We're not really going to discuss the oval skew. I don't like them. The main reason is I don't like the flexibility. This isn't stiff enough for me. I don't like it when it starts shaking on me, things like that. If you go to Bill Atchison, we're going to get into bead turning. This is Bill's bead turner. Look familiar? The parting tool. So Bill will take that and start to lower the tool rest a little bit because it's a little bit thicker. And he'll start with it that way. And all I'm doing is rolling my wrist from left to right, roll, and I can turn a bead. I'm going to have to make a cut here. A little shallower than I want it. Again, roll. Notice the handle's right toward my body. I don't have to go out here with it. If I use a bedan, I'm very similar. It just rolls over. The only thing with a bedan when you start is that you can only cut pretty close to a little bit more than the diameter of the blade itself, makes it a little bit easier. But there's cutting with the corner and with the point. There's with all the blade, cutting with the bedan. Whoop, you saw one there, didn't you? That's the first one I've had in at least today. Today on that one. Okay, so let's take a look at the straight for cutting beads. And that's my piercing cut. Whenever you're making those cuts, you start with the point, drop the handle, and just raise the handle into the wood. You'll make a nice cut with it. Now I have two choices here, whether to use the point, the short point, or to use the blade itself. So let's see if we can cut the first one. This tool rest, to me, it's got this big hunk of metal down in here. It's a little bit difficult to hold your tool quite as well. I'm going to have to raise the tool rest back up a little. Sorry. Okay, So here's with the point, nibble it off a little bit first, make another one, and now it's rolling and the handle comes up. I have to, first of all, I have to have my tool in a good cutting position so the blade will cut correctly. Number two is as I go, I have to slide down the tool rest a little bit. And three, I have to rotate the blade into that cut on this side of the wood. And let's take just a little look at this. If you cut this and try to roll it straight over on top of the wood, you're going to have trouble. But if you're going to pull the handle to the right a little bit and you slice down, you know what the diameter of that groove in there is. And your target is to end up with the point of this tool just rubbing on the closest side to you, not trying to come up on top of it, because it's not going to work up there. You're going to have trouble, you're going to catch it, and you're going to run it. So the forward pressure I have to use on this tool is minimal, but I don't want to end up too high up here. I just want it to be able to ride in the groove. Now, that one cut easy. If you go the other way, you have to come over here. This isn't a great place to be, or you're going to switch hands. If you're ambidextrous and you can work a skew, you're good. Most of us are going to be something like this and trying to cut that down, cut her back down again, cut her back down to the bottom, and end up in the bottom tool here. With the tool, very important that I don't rotate very far, and I don't rotate too far. I'm trying to do this like that. Okay? I'm trying to make sense of that. Now this is this one is the big curve, and again, this one is at the straight top in it here. So we're working. Yeah, that'd be better. I would stick my head in it quite so well. On this one, or the other one, either one of these, the bottom curve, the short point curve, is pretty good on that. But I can put this one in, and I'm going to cut this more with the blade. And notice my hand really didn't move the tool very much. All I did was roll it, rotate my wrist, and drop it in the groove on that side. All right, so we got another one. I did that one. Same thing here. Roll it over. And I have a better visual of, that's what happens when you don't pull it out straight. I have a better visual of this far side right here with this kind of blade. Either one of those. They're very similar. But I can see this, whereas this one, the straight blade, I have to get over here to make it cut. And even with the blade, I'm still going to have trouble when it goes vertical. I cannot see that edge right now. I have to go like that to get around the corner. So that's a drawback in this situation here. All right, so now we're going to look at the long point. And on the long point cut, it's not quite as bad. I'm going to start with it. I can use the point. And just pretty much roll it over. Because the long point is lower than this one on the wood, I don't have to raise the handle so much. So that's a plus here, I think. And roll it in that way. When I get on this side, I do have to move over, but I have a better visual of the cut itself. And I want to end up vertical. and this one goes down lower. If you look at this one in the groove and this one in the groove, I can actually go below center with that part of it on that one. Well, that helps that one. Now, we've got this one. This is the straight one. It does not pierce as well. This is the L laser type grind on this tool here. I think Raffin's the other one's more. This one's more like Raffin's on that. But again, if I'm going away from me, I can roll this pretty easy. I have my finger on the handle, pointing to exactly where I want to go, and I rolled it over. Come back the other way, I can roll it over. I want to point out one thing. I want to go back just a second here. Point out one thing with this one. When you come around, I'm going to slow this thing down and try to get that light in there good. As you come around with this one, if you're not careful with that point right there and you stick it in the other bead next to it, it's gone. It's gone. It just, you have to make sure you raise the handle enough when you come around the corner. Come around the corner, and we're going to do it up too high. Well, that figures. Let's just run right through it. When you want things to happen, they don't. When you don't want them to happen, they pop. So you kick it back like that on you. So you have to be careful with that long point going back in that way. If we taper this, again with the straight skew, if you work in a taper, work backwards. So I'm going to start on the end here and lower this tool rest because my diameter is going to change as I go. But I can cut it down, down, and down. The speed really helps me push it along at the speed I'm after here. So I can actually go up pretty high on the tool because the taper has got a cove in it. And I'm very careful, and you can see where I have a little mark right there. I'm cutting on the lower side. Cuts pretty well with that. The long point, good luck. Look at what's happening here. That's really not a very good position to make a cut with this kind of tool. So this one, let's see what happens if we go a little bit shallower. Then we can do it in one of these. What we're doing is actually making a cove, a small cove, with the skew. With this tool, is much more likely to do it than trying to make something like that. And I do not say that this is what you should be doing, but look at what happens. I can't get that around the corner down there like I could with the curved one. So if you want to clean up a cove, a long cove, some kind of taper to it, this is the best tool for that one. You can lay it in there and bring it right down and do it that way. Okay, just a quick little thing on grinding this. What I did was take a magic marker and mark my curve. That was on one side. Okay, my fingers are underneath the Wolverine, and I can pivot and make that curve and work it like that. The other thing is I dip them in water once in a while. Some people say you shouldn't be doing high-speed steel dipping in water. If you get it that hot, you shouldn't have been grinding it. What you have, I have CBN wheels. I love them. I highly recommend them for all kinds of turning tools. And then the other one I have to get a little bit out of the way. Basically the same thing. Now, the water actually helps keep it flat on the tool rest. It's almost like a hydro suction. You put it on that long tool rest like that, and you can work it that way back and forth with that one. All right, so that's pretty easy that way. The straight one is very similar, except I'm just going to hold it like that and roll it back and forth. How do I know I'm in the middle? You look at it, and this one's off a little bit to the right. This end here is pretty close. This bevel's a little bit shorter than this bevel. All I'm really concerned with, again, is the very edge out here. This part back here, I will actually grind some of this away at times, or grind some of the heel away, but I'm trying to get in someplace with it. There we go. I was doing Christmas trees with loose rings, and I had a Christmas tree with 20 rings on it, and I cut them all with this skew. So I was piercing underneath each side, and the ring would come loose, and then I would sand it to taper the Christmas tree a little bit more. But you know, if you look at this one, it's rounded in here, so it really works well either way, and I can go in with it that way. But it's a very long bevel on it. It's made to do that type of work. Until Dick Singh showed me his ring tool. I said, oh, I can do it that way. The other thing, if you're honing with it, put a little water on here, because the water is going to tell you, especially as it gets mixed with a little bit of the grit, it's going to tell you when you're on the edge. The water will come over the top of the edge. The dirty water is what you like. And it just, when you stroke it like that, you'll see the water. If you don't see the water coming over, you're not on the edge, you're back here someplace. So, you don't want to bend it over, but you really like to just get that lined up the best you can and then look for that water on the bad side. And just stroke, 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 stroke. You watch Al Lacer, okay, he's done so many of them, he's pretty good at it. I think water will really help you in finding that edge a little bit easier for it. All right?
Cold. Again. Seems like it.
Make it cold? No. It's the same problem as the straight blade. You cannot make the curve without the point hitting in the bottom of the cold. But the curved one, the blade, the short point is out of the way. So now when it comes on the bottom of the cold, it actually will not catch on that short point. That make sense?
Yeah, I don't have.
Yeah, Bedan is a good way if you're making 3/8 inch beads that you want to get them done, and you have pretty good success at it. Just rolling it over, taking off a fairly light piece of wood or amount of wood.
You still got to stand.
Okay, this guy's name is Brian, B-R-A-I-N, and Habens, H-A-B-E-N-S. Very, very well done in detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob.